Gina from the Sesame Street cast, Bob McGrath as Bob, Roscoe Orman as Gordon, Emilio Delgado as Luis, and Caroll Spinney and Deborah and Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch.
Hello, everybody.
Hola. Ladies and gentlemen, Caroll and Deborah Spinney.
Spinney!
Spinney.
Big Bird, ladies and gentlemen, Big Bird. And Oscar the Grouch.
And his wife, Debbie Spinney. Great to see all of you here. Wonderful. By the way, it's pronounced Spinney. There's two N's. Yeah. And anyway, it's nice to be here in the City National Civic Center. That's true. It's a national city. It's confusing, isn't it?
Hi, Gina. Hi, how are you? How's everyone doing today?
Doing great.
Great. How are you?
Hello.
Excited to have you here. I'm going to fangirl out for a moment. Even as someone who used to work at Sesame Workshop, it's still very exciting to see the people who formed so many childhoods, like in person. I'm sure everyone here has been touched by all the work that you did at Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Like, it's a very surreal thing for all of us, I think. So we're very appreciative that you're here today. I was raised in a house where the only things we were allowed to watch were Star Trek and PBS, so this is like the perfect place to be, and I think it explains a lot about a lot of us as adults. I'd love to talk about both your shows were sort of pioneers of early childhood development and advocacy and just making sure that television was educational, right? Like the whole point of it was to make sure that kids had something to connect with that wasn't going to necessarily be super commercial or rot brains. What drew you to the roles that you took on to start?
What was the question again?
What drew us to
What drew you to the role?
I mean, pretty much
A job?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, basically, how you phrase the question, I can speak for myself, is exactly what drew me to the job. I also grew up myself watching all of them, so it was a real surreal experience being an actor and then walking on set and getting that job. And but what it stood for and what the show, and I watched your show as well, of course, what those shows represented, the innocence of childhood, all of that stuff is something that I think we all wanted to be a part of.
I had another whole focus in life at the point when I found out about the show until I saw about 3 minutes of animation and Jim and Frank doing Muppet pieces, and I said, that's the I took the wrong direction. This is where I want to live for the next 40 years, 45 years. And it turned out that way, but it was incredible. Yeah, not bad. And it was wonderful because in the late 60s, Head Start funds were being cut, and that's when Joan Cooney and other very bright people decided that we were sort of changing a lot of lower income kids, and that's what started, as I say, the 2 years worth of research, and the first show in 1969. And someone asked Joan after the first year, how do you think it's going? She said, I don't know. So we'll just give it a couple of years and see what happens. 45, 46 years later, it happened.
Steve, for you, your run on this show was phenomenal when you signed on to be, but you didn't even sign on as an actor initially, right?
No, I signed on as two things, an actor but I was a production coordinator, and I had to make sure that Fred's sweaters were lined up, the puppets were dressed, and the props were in place.
I did not know that.
Yes, I was hired as Fred's assistant at first, and I came to it in 1967. In fact, that's 50 years, right? Yes. So 50 years ago, we started taping about this time, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, that went on the air in 1968. So I came to
by 1 year.
Pardon me?
You beat us by 1 year. We started in 69.
That's right.
And we have our 50th anniversary in 2 years, right? 2 years. It'll be 50th anniversary of Sesame Street. We're looking forward to it.
Yep. Big year. 1974, I became a father and I joined the cast of Sesame Street that same year. And I said, wow, what a great idea to be Gordon, for my young kids. So all my kids have been on the show with me. And, 42 years later, they're all grown and we're all here.
Son's about 6 something.
My son is 6'5", and actually he became a fixture for a while as Miles, the adopted son of Susan and Gordon on Sesame Street. So it's always been a family affair, and we're all family still. So.
There are a lot of shows saying we're really like a family. But
We will talk.
this show, truly, we are a family. We can't wait to get together and have a good time like we're having this weekend.
So I'm curious, because you have spent so much time together, like what's the hidden thing about each other that we wouldn't guess? Like who has a hidden talent?
The hidden thing about each other that you wouldn't guess.
Roscoe is actually white. He's not. I'm sorry, I promise not to tell.
That's a well-kept secret for like 47 years.
There's a lot of hair.
Bueno, saludos a todos ustedes que hablan español. ¿Dónde están ahí? A ver. Hey, I was saying all the Spanish-speaking people here. Latinos, Latinas, por donde quiera.
One thing I do want to
So
say.
I was looking for somebody that spoke Spanish as well as English, and so there I was in California, being an actor out there, or trying to be an actor anyway. And somebody called me and said, would you like to interview for our show? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? I was staring at my last unemployment check. I had to say yes. That's how I got on the show, and they took me all the way from California to New York. It was like space travel, going from one planet to another. I couldn't understand it. When I got to New York, I couldn't understand anybody in English or in Spanish.
I was just going to say, there's no real hidden, I mean, we've all worked together so long, it's kind of hard, I mean, hidden things about each other, I mean, I don't really know, I don't even know if I want to know.
I think probably that when you say hidden, that's the wrong word to use with us, because each one of us is like people that are just totally out front with
Okay, we live out loud.
with ourselves and with everybody else, with the fans that come in, with the kids that worked on the show. I mean, everybody's like an out front person.
Yeah. Honest to
No hidden stuff.
I understand though,
Is there one,
you know, Sco, you're white, no. But yeah,
For a change, we really should have a really good fight right now, just to change the pace of things. I don't think we know how to do that.
Bring up Oscar, let's find out.
well, speaking of, so Caroll, you are one of the people who you wouldn't know necessarily that you were the man behind Big Bird and the Grouch, but now you've sort of stepped into this spotlight that I Am Big Bird was such a wonderful film, and we get to see sort of like your journey with the show. What's it been like, letting people know the process and letting people into that part of your life?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question.
Just repeat.
What's it been like having people see more of your life? Because again, you could be someone who nobody would ever know who played Big Bird or Oscar. You have that option as one of the puppeteers as opposed to a human actor.
I was kind of used to it, that I was unknown, that Big Bird. I was funny. It was interesting for me because occasionally I kind of looked like a hippie, had long hair and a beard, and I'd been waiting years. I'd worked on the Bozo show in Boston for 9 years at the time, and I worked one more year after I did Sesame Street, because I discovered I was out of work in the summer. I said to Jim Henson, who had hired me, what will I get paid during the summer? And they said, nothing. I said, but yet the bank wants the mortgage payments every month. Where am I going to get that? He said, I don't know. So I went back to Boston. I said, can I have my job back for the summer? You can have anything. You can have your own show because you're on the greatest kids show. And at that point, it was well recognized as a really great show, even though I felt it was rather amateurish.
Oh, it was only the beginning.
Talking about Sesame Street.
From the Mozart to Sesame Street.
And I took quite a pay cut to join Sesame Street because it's on PBS, and I was on commercial television before. And
Glad you did.
I'm glad I took
Also,
it.
and Gina was asking about, when the movie came out, of course, they came to us and said, would you mind if we're going to show everybody who you are, you know, all the nitty-gritty and everything else in between. And at first we weren't really sure we wanted to do that.
Yeah.
We've had all these years of being very private. Because like you said, everybody knows these faces, but they don't know this one. So it was sort of something we had to think about, and Sesame Street said they'd be behind it either way. And they did agree to let Big Bird and Oscar be part of the movie because they own the characters. And they came up, the three fellows, the Copper Pot Picture guys, who were fabulous, they came up to our house and they literally needed 3 cars to fill, because we had so much archival stuff, because Carol and I take tapes and movies of everything. So everything from old home movies to, you know, new stuff, old stuff, it filled 3 cars, and it took them 3 years to look through it all. And you know, every once in a while I kept thinking, oh, I hope nothing's in there that I don't know I gave them. But I think there wasn't. But then once they got the 3 years, you know, of what they wanted out of that, then it took them 2 years to put it all together and to interview the people they interviewed for it. So it was a 5-year project, but we're so happy with it. We were very surprised it came kind of out to be a love story, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was nice.
I didn't expect that.
So
And,
that's how that came about.
But we filmed each other a lot, and so, including even saying, I love you.
For a lot of us.
So,
We're real happy with it. So.
and we also had, knew some of the footage of the films were things that were just natural taken at our place. We built 5 ponds through the years, and they're lovely swimming, a couple of them. And so naturally, because we were way out in the woods by ourselves, they were all skinny dipping.
Those are the ones I was talking about.
They didn't use.
They didn't use those. I'm not supposed to tell them that. There's the hidden thing.
More than we were expecting.
You were our hearts on our sleeves.
You know, there's some real pluses of not people knowing who you are, as we've all witnessed on more than one occasion after the concerts and things, and do a meet and greet. And I'd make the mistake of saying, the kids would say, you know, 5-year-old, I see you on TV. And I said, really? I said, do I look the same? And more than once, they say, nope, nope. One kid up in Vancouver, I said, how come? He said, well, up close, you just don't look too good. Followed by a 3- and 5-year-old brother and sister, and I asked him the same question, silly, foolishly, and he said, nope. And I said, how come? He said, well, your teeth are kind of yellow. At which his sister, 2 or 3 years older, knew that that wasn't so cool, and she tried to save his thing, and she said, oh, that's okay, when you're old, your teeth are supposed to be yellow.
If you ask that
That's the wrong question, Bob.
What you ask is what you get.
Kids say the darndest things.
I asked a little kid in the elevator out in Vancouver that just come from the pool, and I said, did you go swimming? And he said, yep. And I said, was the water wet? I was trying to be a smart aleck. And he looked and he said, yep. I peed in it. His parents went, oh!
It has to be interesting, right? That this level of people wanting to tell you their stories and like, we love you. Like, we love you guys. You were parts of our childhood, and like people who had children's children. Like, you know, it's such a multi-generational thing. And so, what are some of like the most unexpected perks of that? Or is it kids coming up to you and telling you they like the show?
I have a huge perk being a puppeteer, since Big Bird is a giant puppet. I was the smallest boy in our whole school, And Big Bird is the biggest character ever seen on television, who talks and sings. And also, he's still 6 years old, whereas I was started when I was 35. And I decided that he initially wasn't the same character. He was just a country bumpkin. And he wasn't very bright. And one day, not too long into the show, I said, you know, I think this character has been wrongly cast. I think he shouldn't be a country yokel, but instead he should be a child. Because like the children were trying to teach at home, he can learn the alphabet along with them, and counting and all. And so I said, it's the first, since he couldn't read or write in the show, I decided he was 4 years old. And I said, the producer, I mentioned that on the speaker system to the what people in charge? Producers. And they agreed it was a good idea, so much so that they claimed it was their idea. And you should put your name on things.
So his purpose said he gets to stay 6 years old for the rest of his life.
I'm 83 years old, playing a 6-year-old on television. And it's kind of a unique situation.
Not to take over your job, but I think you should, can you tell them the story of how you came up with the voice for Oscar?
Well, yeah. I've never had a very deep voice, and for Big Bird I just speak a little higher. So I talk a little like this. Here I am.
But your taxi driver gave you the voice for Oscar? Yeah, the taxi driver?
Oscar. But the problem was I had never done a rough character before. We're from the earlier parts of ideas of children for television. That everything has to be sweet and nice, no scary characters. But Jim Henson was in charge. And he loved pulling noses off and blowing people up. And so it was the last minute, and I was going to meet Jim Henson. He'd already hired me. The person was lucky; he was the one who hired me. And so I was going to meet him over at where we're going to film, over the video, on 83rd Street and Broadway. And so I get in a cab, and this guy says, "Where to back?" I said, "Well, what a voice." He talked with a cigar on one side of his mouth, and the other words coming out. Yeah, I talk like this. So I kept saying to myself, "It's a perfect voice." I just dropped the heavy New York accent, and
all the curse words.
And the guy did not like Mayor Lindsay. He says, "Mayor Lindsay, this expletive mayor is ruining this city. There's garbage in the streets," and there was. And it was pretty messy. And since I didn't have any place to stay, the pay wasn't good enough to even rent a room. So I was sleeping on people's couches, and I tried sleeping in my dressing room, and then the person who rented the building said, "You can't stay here, it's against the law." So, but it's an empty room. It's got a nice little bed, day bed in it, and no, can't use it. So I'll be sleeping in the street. Tough.
I told Jim about the voice.
Oh yeah.
Back onto the subject.
I tend to do that.
Just because you pose such great questions, I think one of the questions you asked was what are some of the perks of being on this particular show was that, and one thing even that I'm realizing, coming to Comic-Con at Silicon Valley, and I'm sure the rest of the crew could vouch for this. One of the differences between being on a show like Sesame Street, I think, and Fred Rogers, as opposed to a huge Hollywood television show, we tend to, and I've been like this too, we tend to separate, them and us. Whereas the thing I found about being Gina on the show is there's such a connection, there's such a humanity. I think it's also because we're dealing with children who, like Bob said, are so honest. But there's an immediate trust, there's an immediate connection between us and you and us, and that kind of puts a humanity just to being a cast member on the show and the world and what it's represented. But there's such a humane aspect to being a cast member on the show and getting to meet all of you. Whereas it's a little different with, you know, celebrities or whatever. We all tend to shy away, and I hope that's not the case, because it's just, you know, we're all connected through children, really. So I just wanted to answer the question.
I think one of the other great things is for all of us, I know it's happened a number of times at a few other Comic Cons and so forth, but parents, very rewarding for many, many parents to come up with children who have special needs and relating their stories as to what it has meant to their child to have those needs addressed on the show is tremendously rewarding. And just a couple of weeks ago I was in Orlando, and this parent came up, and a teacher, and she was dealing with autistic children. We now have a new Muppet who is autistic, whose name is Julia. And I have still not seen Julia, and I didn't see the segment, but she just raved about when her kids were there, her autistic children, and saw this piece between Elmo and Julia. She said it was just extraordinary, the reaction they had, which was really heartwarming to know that after 45 years they could still come up with a new concept that knocked people out. So
that's one of the things I think I love most about the show, is about Carol's points about deciding to make Big Bird a big kid instead of, you know, it's inclusive and it's continuing to learn and adapt, and it's also super unafraid to take on like sensitive subjects. So
here's another one, and I'll stop in 13 seconds. But we have, I think we're in 130 English-speaking countries and about 35 or 40 foreign co-productions. And one that's been going for a long time is in Africa. And many of you may know this. They have a Muppet called Kami, and she is HIV positive, which is pretty groundbreaking to have on a children's show. And so the kids all know that they cannot catch AIDS by playing with another child who is HIV positive. So, I mean, those are, as our former exec said, when our people go out, they're not just going out to hyper-sell a show, they're really on a real mission, and a really humane mission, which is very gratifying to know, to be connected with something like that.
I think the other thing that also Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was just like, there was a sense of warmth and a sense of like comfort and a sense of safety that both Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood were trying to provide. And one of the things I am curious about is, you know, when you do have to deal with tough issues, that, you know, things like, I remember we produced a bit when, for children whose parents were coming back and like, you know, dealing with your parent might be missing a limb and stuff like that. So what are some of the ones that really stood out for you, where you're like, I'm really glad we tackled this, in addition to the ones you've already mentioned?
The one that Fred Rogers spent 5 years deciding that he was going to do, we got a lot of letters wanting him to deal with divorce. And he said, how do you do that? And it took him about 5 years to research it. And finally, he did a week on divorce. But we did an evening production on PBS on Sunday night, a panel for adults. And then the whole rest of the week was on divorce to explaining it to children. The one thing he wanted to get across was that it's not children's fault when there's divorce in the family. And it was much more, I'm simplifying, it was much more complicated than that, but it took him 5 years. He wrote his own scripts, and he had he wrote the music, and he had a child development expert with him. Every Tuesday they would meet and talk about tough subjects. But the one thing she always said is you can deal with all these tough subjects, but don't forget the fun. And that was very important for children, to just remember the fun, too.
I think I'm correct in saying that Sesame Street tried to think that up, and they knew it was very sensitive, and I don't think they never really were able to come up with an answer. They tried.
No, Roscoe did. Yeah, and it was beautiful.
My mic is actually on. Actually, we did address the issue of divorce in a special production that was not aired as part of the series with myself, Abby Cadabby. Abby's parents divorced, and it was a divorce episode in which it was explained to Abby and that the fact that she now had the opportunity to visit both or live with her mom at times and with her dad, she actually had the advantage of having two homes, two places, and she was kind of like really kind of juiced about it. I mean, she could actually go to two different homes and have two different living situations and enrich her life in that way, and she became the envy of all the other Muppets.
And that's interesting. Yeah. Now that was a Muppet situation. They were going to do it with a human, and that didn't work. But prior to that, they researched the possibility of Snuffleupagus' mom and dad having a divorce, and that was still devastating. They had to dish that idea, even though it was snuffy, saying, "Oh dear." A divorce? No.
And I think that for Sesame Street, don't you think that probably the most meaningful show they ever did was Mr. Hooper's death?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that was a show that we didn't have to fabricate anything because the event of Will Lee's passing was as it was a family, passing, and we really were in grief, all of us. We brought that into that moment, and there was a script, incredibly sensitive, written by Norman Stiles, but every bit of emotion was so real and so on. I mean, because it had been so recent, and we made a point of airing that particular show on Thanksgiving that year, so that families could be together to share the event and the message.
And all three networks found it was so important. They had a previous show that each one of us were on a different network of the three major networks promoting the show the day before Thanksgiving because they wanted all their audience. And they did research. They went through a lot of things. They knew that he had a sister and living in Florida. That had been written in the script at times. And at first they said, I'm just going to say he's taking a long vacation to his sister, and then they said, that's not honest. These kids, there's millions of kids that love Mr. Hooper, and we should be more honest, and so it was fortuitous that we were during a hiatus of 2 or 3 months, and they had every possible child expert that dealt with death and dying that time to create this incredible script, and we rehearsed it for maybe a couple hours or so, totally dry, with no emotion, and then finally our director John Stone said, okay, let's go to tape. We taped it, and we barely got through it. There was no acting going on, in case any of you have seen that, and the tears were for real.
But that's why it was so
And at the end of the script, John came on and said, it was phenomenal. I'd like to do one little quick pickup somewhere, and we reluctantly said, okay, John, whatever. We started and got into it, 30, 60 seconds, whatever, and the whole thing fell apart, and he said, never mind, we'll just go with the original tape. So one take with real emotions, raw emotions. That and I think Christmas Eve on Sesame Street are my personal 2 favorite shows over 5 years. It was beautifully written also.
I think one of the things that was really important on Sesame Street, the show was on about maybe 3 seasons before I came on. I came on the 3rd season of the show. And I think what they discovered in those 3 years leading up to when I came on, that there were millions of kids out there. There were Spanish-speaking or came from Latin American families. Especially out in the West with all the Chicanos and Chicanas out there. And so they figured, wait a minute, we got to catch these kids too, because a lot of them, of course, wouldn't be able to speak English, but when they brought me on and I could speak English and Spanish both, you can imagine the self-esteem going through the roof with these kids, you know, which made a lot of difference for those families. And I get to this day, so many people that have come up to me and told me that when they watched Sesame Street and they watched Louise come on, that they were so proud because there was nobody else on television that looked like them. And there was Louise speaking their language, you know. So in terms of self-esteem for all of those children that were out there, I think that was a very important aspect.
And likewise, Sonia Manzano, Maria, who we all love and is brilliant, she was one of our top writers, and is a very successful author and lecturer and so forth. She was young watching the show, and she said she was just absolutely awestruck when she saw someone that looked like her on the show. And later on, bingo, there she is being part of the cast and one of our head writers for a long time. So it drove it right back.
And to this day, it's the same thing, you know, when, especially now where there are so many more Latinos in the country than there ever were before. And let's hope that that self-esteem continues to increase.
But it's not just that, it's about sort of like the diversity of cultures. Like that was, I think, the most delightful part to me is like some movies multicultural, seeing like everyone just kind of coexisting. And I grew up in the Bay Area, and that's like kind of what we were used to. And then realizing that like, okay, this is actually a representation. Why aren't there Muppets in the Bay Area, man? Like, come on, like, that's what I wanted. But no, and actually for me, like Big Bird Goes to China was really big for me, just because I am Chinese American. It was cool to see you guys travel somewhere and then to see all the shows pop up that are now, you know, Plaza Sesamo. It's great to see the impact that this one show had globally and generationally. We're going to open up to audience questions in a minute. If anyone wants to line up, but one of my questions is, what inspires you most about you? What about your characters inspired you the most? Like, what do you admire the most about the characters you played?
On our own character?
Yeah,
Admire?
because they're fictional characters technically, you know.
I think that, you know, Luis is an excellent representative of hardworking, family man, very loving and conscientious, and
That's
it's
just the
perfect.
way you are.
No, but I think it's a very good, representation of a Latino on American television, and that's very important because all through the career that I've ever had as an actor, and I've been working as an actor almost 50 years now professionally. In all that time, there were a lot of misrepresentations of Latinos on television and films, which has to sort of change. And I think including somebody like Luis on national, television exposure is very important.
Well, I think the quality that I really valued most about Gordon and being able to play Gordon was to be able to show a side of being a man, a father, a husband, but someone who was both strong and very sensitive and open to the feelings of children and to a vast array of emotions. Big Bird, of course, was an example of someone who's always looking for that kind of sensitivity and kind of the ability to communicate his feelings. And to have a male figure, a male father figure who's open to that and able to, it really was, I think, a revolutionary kind of representation.
I've been singing since I was 5 years old, and I was really excited when I was approached to be on the show to know that they were looking for a music teacher, because having spent 80-odd years as a singer, and having dealt with so many young people and the impact that music has on a child's life. Kids that are involved in music simply, with all of the research that has gone on, simply are smarter. The whole left-right brain thing and so forth. And to think that we're questioning the value of the NEA, I'll stop, is just horrific, because the arts make an enormous difference in a child's life and anyone's life. So for me, it was tremendously rewarding to have the opportunity to work with like the great, as I'm classically trained, to have the Itzhak Perlman, the Yo-Yo Ma's, the Isaac Sterns, the Yo-Yo, the Lang Langs, as well as the Beyoncés and the other great artists, is, I think, a fantastic. Music has always been a very, very, very strong part of the show and part of every goal that we have ever used. And it would be a very different show if that wasn't so, I think. Yeah.
And I just, regarding Gina, when she came on the show, one of the things I really liked about her that John Stone, our original director, kept is that she was so flawed. You know, I was Gordon's student. The two other students who were supposed to get there got there. I got lost, and just the way the character evolved. I mean, and the beauty is she's grown up since then. But she was very flawed and nervous, and I kind of she was almost like the equivalent of a female Telly. Like in the very beginning, she was so nervous and hyper and excited, and I would make mistakes, and I loved that they let that grow. And the only other thing I wanted to say, because I want to give you an opportunity, that I just remembered is, you know, with the three of you sitting there watching the show as a child, and you know, some of us didn't necessarily come from homes where, like you were speaking about, you know, there was chaos or whatever. I'm not going to cry. But, you know, it's true. That is exactly what the three of you represented. There was a safety in the male figure. And I don't even know if I've ever told you that, so I wanted to just tell you.
More.
Such a safety. I didn't know people like that existed as a child watching this.
You weren't from the Midwest.
I wasn't from the Midwest, I was from Brooklyn, so I thank you, and that is exactly what you did for me, and I'm sure pretty much all of us, so I love you.
I'll make this speaking. I was just proud to be associated with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and in turn with all the PBS shows, and proud to work for PBS because what it represents, what we've heard here today, the neighborhood and Sesame complemented. Joe Cooney once said that somebody asked her a question that was on a talk show or something, and she said, well, I'll give you a good hour and a half. And she meant Sesame and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And so I guess overall I'm just proud to be a part of the whole legacy of public television and being the speaking delivery, you know, all my
Donate to your local PBS station.
Viewers like you. How about viewers like you? We'll go to audience questions.
I'm a mom of 4, and throughout my years of being a mom, there's many times that I've said, oh, I wish someone had written a manual for me. You're not a manual, but you sure have held our hands along the way and helped us deal with some tough topics. And one of my favorite lines is when Mr. Rogers taught us to always point out the helpers. And we've used that line a lot in our home. My question is, so thank you. I just want to say that. My question is, who is, for all of you, a favorite celebrity guest appearance that was on the show?
Oh boy.
A favorite appearance?
About an hour and a half or so.
It's an easy call for me. The great Lily Tomlin was as earnestly as ever. And the reason is, we all know Lily as this zany, fabulous, hilarious comic performer. But she came onto the set of Sesame Street with such a sense of reverence for who we were, what we were about. She brought her acting coach with her, so that between every take, she consulted with the coach to make sure that the next take was at least a few notches better than the last. And by the end of that day's work, I felt the most incredible sense of honor to have been a part of the process of that kind of creativity. Lily Tomlin, to me, was one of the absolute geniuses of comedy. And is the absolute one of great genius of comedy. And she brought all of that with great respect to what we do on Sesame Street.
And for us on Mr. Rogers, that story.
Yes, wonderful. That's Ernestine the operator. One ringy-dingy, do ringy-dingy. But she really brought it full force, and it was one of the highlights of my years on Sesame Street.
And that's the truth.
That's the truth.
I just wanted to say the highlight when Big Bird visited Mr. Rogers' neighborhood was a highlight for me. I've often been asked, who is your favorite person of all time on Sesame Street? And I said, well, it's kind of hard. It's a toss-up between being given a hug by Fred Rogers saying you're special and thank you, and a kiss on the cheek from Beyonce.
Tough one.
You choose.
So, I also will try not to cry. I have a 3-year-old that watches the show now too. So, 2 things. I don't know if it goes into the if you don't have anything nice, don't say anything at all category, but the shift with HBO, just kind of how that transition happened. Or something light, like did you ever get to improvise too much on the show? So you could go with the difficult question or like the fun question.
We didn't get to improvise too much.
I have nothing but a real quick answer, and everybody else knows the same thing. HBO came in at a time when we were losing a lot of money because no DVDs were being sold, and that can cost the show millions of dollars. We'd gone from 130 shows a season when the 2 or 3 of us were here at the starting, down to like 35 or 40 or something in there. And they came in with a lot of cash to make it possible to record another, 35 or 40 shows. And they had nothing, just to clear up a misconception, they had nothing to do with the content of the show. That was still always up to our research people. And I think PBS had wanted another half-hour show for a long time, because that fit into their schedule, so that took it from 60 to 30, and they released all of us, because there were too many people, because the focus is going to be now on pre-K, 3.5-year-olds, and especially for a 3.5-year-old, and this was a request of teachers and principals of pre-K. They wanted much more social values because it was really rough for a kid from a really tough inner city to walk into a classroom at 3.5 with a little medium and upper income kids. Not quite sure how to deal with that. So it's all good, and we're looking forward to our 50th anniversary. So that's part of that question. And not much improvisation, except when you're trying to juggle Frank Oz and Jim Henson, who give you 13 seconds to start singing, because the doctor is a person, and they give you that much time to get your wits together, and you want to die laughing.
Thank you for my time.
Yeah.
We have time for one very short question.
Okay, this is for David. Rich, who came up with the idea for the character for Mr. McFeely?
Well, look, Fred did. The program started in Canada years ago, and he would bring props in, and we were on a low budget, and it grew over the years. But Fred's middle name is McFeely, and his grandfather's name was Brooks McFeely, so he named the character Mr. McFeely. But he wanted to have something, rather than him bring the prop in and show something each time, he wanted to expand the program, and he added a delivery man, and over the years he kept adding characters to take the focus off of him. But he was the conduit we all went through. But it was Fred who brought it up. But we have to wrap up. It's 0 hours. The first program we did, I just said, "Speedy delivery, Mr. Rogers," and it sort of stopped. And so, and I thought I had a job for 1 year, and here I am, honored to be here with all the
All right, we can pause because we have to give a shout out to the Yippee.
Oh, yeah.
We're really proud. Thank you all so much. That's our time. Give a huge round of applause.
Stop.
Meet all of these stars in the main show floor all afternoon for autographs and photographs with all of the panel. Plus original drawings of Big Bird and Grouch by Caroll Spinney.